Hi, my name is James Miller. I'm a licensed psychotherapist and a composer. In this episode, I wanted to speak with you about intelligence. Of course, we all recognize who the world considers intelligent, but there's actually 9 different versions of intelligence. And I'll let you do your own research on what those are. But I wanted to focus specifically on the old school version of IQ versus what's known as EQ. IQ stands for intelligence quotient, and EQ stands for emotional quotient. So the EQ is more of the interpersonal type of intelligence. So what happens is, let's say I have a very high EQ, but my IQ may not be as high. And so if I'm around someone who has an extremely high IQ, I'm always going to feel less than. I'm always going to feel inferior. I'm going to feel as if I'm not smart. I'm going to feel as if I'm always doing something wrong. And the reason why I want to bring this up is because, and of course I'm generalizing what an EQ and an IQ, they're not on the same continuum, they're different measures of it. But if someone has a really high IQ and they just think differently, they sometimes can think in the abstract and in a very intelligent way that we just may not necessarily understand or follow, but they don't often demonstrate a high EQ, that interpersonal aspect. So they may have what's considered book smarts or just really scientific smarts, and then someone over here who may not have those types of smarts, but they're really good at looking at people's types of communication. They're really good at picking up on people's empathy. They're really good at just looking at the nuances of any type of social setting. So if you have these two people together, and once again I'm generalizing because that's not as black and white as this, but if you have someone who has a really high IQ and someone who has a lower EQ, the person with the lower EQ will always feel less important or less intelligent. It's because the person with a high IQ isn't going to demonstrate the emotional awareness in social situations. They're not going to pick up on the nuances. They're not going to pick up on the specifics of maybe body language or word choices. They're going to think in a different way. So perhaps you're dating someone who has what's considered a higher IQ, or you have a friend who has a higher IQ, or you are just your professor or whomever else has this more elevated IQ, and you may not have that, but I want you to realize that it's natural to feel as if you're not on the same level because this person doesn't necessarily demonstrate the EQ level that you do. And because that happens, you're always going to question yourself. So I want you to realize that there's really no difference. You just have different versions of what intelligence are. And if you try and compare your EQ to someone's IQ and vice versa, it's not going to be the same because intelligence is different. And so like I said, there's actually 9 different versions of intelligence. And you could definitely Google those to figure out which one makes most sense for you. And I promise you that if you do look into that, and you'll be able to recognize, wow, I'm actually really intelligent in many different areas of what I thought. So we all have a different measure of intelligence, but I really wanted to focus on the specifics of those two because those are pretty much the most well-known. So person who has a higher IQ may not demonstrate the social awareness, and the person who has a higher EQ, who does represent the social awareness, is always going to feel less than because those two things just don't balance. So I really want to encourage you that you are just as intelligent as anyone else, but maybe just in a different way. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Check out jamesmillerlifeology.com. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.